We're here for our Game of Thrones recap talk, which we've been doing for the last, has it been 5 weeks already?
5 weeks. Yeah.
Episode 5 of season 8. Now, we got one more episode to go before this whole thing is done. Not everybody's going to be pleased. You're not going to be able to satisfy everybody at all. Some people are going to be very happy with the way things are going. Some people are just going to be along for the ride. Mm-hmm. I have a feeling that there are going to be things that are said. And, you know, when you have something like this where people are going to have all kind of mixed emotions, of course, we like to kind of recap with some footage of the previous episode. We're going to do that right now. I didn't show you, I like barely any of the destruction that went down in this. I don't think anybody could have anticipated. They showed you the calm before everything that happened. I don't think anybody would have been able to anticipate just how bad things would have got. Even if you've gone off and you probably read some of the leaks and spoilers and whatnot. I mean, it from a spectacle angle, I don't think anybody was anticipating how this was going to be.
No, it was like a nuclear bomb had gone off inside the city. And I love that aspect. Again, from a production standpoint, you know, for people that might have criticized episode 3 and not be able to see it, you see everything here on the ground level, you know, up top, you know, in the skies.
Oh, yeah.
All from all different sorts of people perspective. I loved it for that.
No, some of this you didn't want to see.
No. I was like,
oh, so you want to see everything, huh? Okay, you asked for it. Good luck sleeping tonight.
Mm-hmm. I would probably say the one positive light I will have to say about this episode was actually the destruction and how it's shot, and even showing the first person perspective from certain characters throughout the episode. Great. Ultimately, this is a huge mess.
Look, the first couple minutes were fine. I think the spectacle, again, this isn't a show that lacks for spectacle at all. I think it dropped the ball so much more, even than the Battle of Winterfell episode, in terms of like year-long story arcs and being anticlimactic and stuff like that. So I had a bunch of problems with it, man. But I'm so curious to kind of go frame by frame with y'all and see what you think.
I think it kind of addresses what some people were complaining about, at least for me now, regardless of what I have to say after this. I do think that something that people were complaining about, they said, you know, look, because I think one of the biggest problems with people right now is that it's not what necessarily they're doing. And there are problems with this. It's not what they're doing. It's what people already made up in their heads.
Sure.
People already had this. See, this is the problem with something that's so hyped up like this. People already had who was going to live, who was going to die, how this was going to play out, how it was going to end. And one of the biggest complaints that people said, because they always say, man, well, I thought. You know, the years you just said, because a lot of people are saying, well, I thought the White Walkers were going to be the biggest threat. And I've always stood by the decision of the producers and the writers to actually not make the White Walkers the final battle. Because I think overall, and I've said this before, that, and the theme that we have here right now is that, yeah, the White Walkers, they were a huge threat. They were scary. You know, they were zombies, so that was kind of cool. But the real monsters are the more human people.
Yeah, people have been following for 8+ seasons
and people
now.
that you thought you knew. Tonight we saw also the theme of choice. Daenerys sat atop a tower and people begged her. They said, when you hear the bell, be cool. You know, don't do shit. Everybody's, at that point, you've gotten what you want. Everybody's going to bend that knee for you. And she just completely lost it. And there was a moment where you saw, and they even said this, where she said, you know, either I can keep what humanity I have, or I can make this personal and just give in to raw anger. And that's exactly what she did. So I always thought that, yeah, it makes sense to get the White Walkers out the way so we could see just how more horrendous these characters that we thought we always knew how worse they can be, or how more heroic they could be at times. But I do agree that there are problems with this.
Look, the problem with it, I like that you said it. It's like this was very much an episode about choice, right? Tyrion had the choice to tell on Varys. Jon was given the choice, like, and the option to heed the warning about who she is. Dany had the choice after she had won. The bells are ringing, right? Be the leader that you said you wanted to be, right? You could do all of this, and she chooses to like give in to her worst, darkest purpose. You know what I mean? And it's like I'll give the episode credit in this regard. The carnage, how brutal some of the deaths were, and it forced you and it made you confront this thing that you didn't really want to happen. And I think that like my big issue with it though is even though it's effective, it's like I don't think they ever sold Dany as someone like, yeah, she can be ruthless and impulsive and shit like that. I don't think after she's already won the throne, she's someone who's going to just straight up burn civilians for no reason. Like I don't think the show did enough to earn that.
How telegraphed do you think it was that they were trying to maybe too much show her going crazy? There was a point where she was cracked out. She was
spaced out looking out.
She
into the
was
sky.
on she was on meth, man. You know, and I don't know, maybe that trailer had a shot of her doing that. Maybe I saw that earlier. But
that heroin chic thing she had going on.
Yeah, because she had her like she had dark circles under her eyes. They were all purple and shit. I mean,
it's 5 in the morning. She hasn't slept for 2 days. The hair is wrong. Hey, baby girl, just calm down.
She's been on a coke bender, and I'm like, all right, I don't need her. You know, I don't need her to physically look insane in order to realize she's insane. I'm tired of people making excuses for this bitch. She took some dudes down to a dungeon and had those dragons burn these guys, and it was cold. Yeah. And people thought, for years, people been making excuses talking about, well, she's just being a leader because nobody's gonna appreciate her as a woman and she has to show strength. I was like, but that's fucking crazy what she just did.
No, sure.
And she watched it. And she enjoyed it.
She slaughtered people. She had the Dothraki raid. What was it? Karth in season 2. Killed all those innocents. We didn't see it, but we know what happened.
The time that she burned that witch who said, I've been raped and whatnot and all that. And she's just this whole time she's just been like, no one's gonna stand in my way to almost a psychotic level.
Sure.
With her. But a lot of people they've been sidetracked because but she in love. And it's like to hell with that. She's. I think it's been shown early on that she has these tendencies. But what do you think, Rob?
Yeah. It's interesting because I like seeing her go into this Mad Queen, descent, but I think the execution fell a little flat because there's a point where you hear the bells ringing, she's won. So although we've always seen these impulses of Dany doing this from the beginning, it was always calmed down by like, hey, you won. You got your dragons. You got your armies. You're cool. We're cool, right? So I don't understand how she pretty much won this with Drogon alone, and then now she wants to flip the switch somewhere. I just felt it was a little.
She never intended to do that. I think she thought just maybe she's like, you know what? Maybe they got a point, but the plan was always. If she had a second thought, it was like, maybe I shouldn't do this. But the plan was always to ride in and burn everything down.
And she says in this episode that, look, okay, I guess it's fear. That's all I have. And they even set up in the previous season where it's like, I came to this continent and, to free these people, but none of them, like, respect me or love me. Like, she points to Jon, like, all these other figures that she's around. Sansa, like, they care for these people, but not for me. And so she feels isolated. She's like, okay, well, I don't care about these people then. Then these are just my subjects. She treats them the same way that Cersei does, disposable. And I think that's always been there, whereas in Essos, all those people look up to her because, she freed them. It's a whole different culture over there. So that's why I think she felt more just kind of like, I don't particularly care. And that's why she went on this unbridled rampage.
Yeah, I mean, well, the Dany thing is like, she had a brutality streak, and we've seen it in previous seasons, but it was always in service of her twisted sense of justice, right? Like when she crucified all the slavers for like 61 miles and shit. I mean, like, yeah, that's brutal, but you're telling me those slavers don't deserve that shit? Of course they do. So at least like all of the brutality served a purpose, where we get to this and it just seems like no matter what, no matter how angry she is, no matter how many like she won, and there was no reason to take out civilians other than for her wanting to see the whole world burn.
I'm tired of people making excuses for her. That's as maybe story wise, I'm not upset, but I'm tired of people looking at her and say, "Oh, nobody loves her. She didn't have anything. She's alone." all that's bullshit. It's petty and she's just being jealous.
Yeah.
When she's telling John, I have no one. John's like, you got me. You know what I mean? You got an army of people that will do anything at your word. And on top of that, a leader is not supposed to come in and say everybody immediately is supposed to like love me and kiss my ass. A leader is supposed to come in and earn the love and respect and loyalty of people. This bitch flew in on a dragon and already start dropping threats and acting crazy and sitting in corners while people partying. She's like, twitching and looking mad. And I'm just like, man, she's freaked people out the moment that she got in because she has never stepped out in front of these people and tried to let them know, hey, I'm Danny. I got a dragon, but we're all right. We'll have to get to know each other for a while, but I want you to know that I'm here for you. She's never come out and done that. She's always come out and been like, I'm your goddamn queen.
Yeah.
Respect that. I hate her. And I mean, I'm not hating her because of a writing standpoint. I think effectively, I don't know if I'm supposed to hate her or not, but I do.
Out of all the complaints there is now when we look back at this show, everything that you're saying with Danny, and I think now after this episode, everyone's going to be so divided on her character and just her arc from the beginning to how it even ends next week. You're right. Those are things that I'm like, you make good points, and I agree with that, but I can also see other people in the camp of why they would be upset with how it played out tonight. Yeah. So those are very fair criticism. And to that, I say I'm on your side. I still have my reserves and opinions on her, but I think how it just kind of flipped the switch, although you would say they've done enough good examples leading up to it. Yeah, I won't fight you on that.
That we saw how the destruction was filmed and people's reactions to it. In a way, despite how evil and terrible Cersei has been throughout the entirety of Game of Thrones, I did feel something for her in those final moments, and that's what's like. That shows the power of the show to show a character who I despise in the best way possible. But it's like I felt something from them in that moment because they're seeing like this is all crumbling around them, and you have to have a reaction because at the end of the day, as evil as she is, she's still human, and that's what's cool about that.
I even wrote that down.
Mm-hmm.
It's so weird. I mean, her going out, I was upset because I'm like, wow, this was just someone I grew to hate, just like Joffrey and Ramsay over the years. But the way Cersei went out, again, and I don't know if it was just this prophecy, right, that they've always alluded to back in season 5. I'm like, well, she did go out with Jaime, but not in the way I expected, right? It was just kind of almost too easy for them, right? Like, it was just this weird Romeo, Juliet. I'm like, well, this is how we die under the rubble, and I'm just like, okay.
More than anything, what bothered me is the Jaime of it all. Because last week I was like, what? I don't think Jaime's going back because he loves her. I think Jaime's going back because he needs to fulfill his destiny. He's got to stop this crazy person, right? And then it's just like to have him go back and be groveling and being like, oh, I just need to be with her. It walks back effectively 4 or 5 seasons of character development for him. And it's just like, for what? So we can have a moment that's semi pretty and thought, but like when you think about it for 2 extra seconds, it's not pretty, man. Like they just, that and the Hound, that's the other one that really bothers me. And we'll kind of get to that in a minute. But while we're on Cersei, it's just like, I mean, I don't feel bad for her at all. She brought a lot of this on to herself. She was given the chance to get out. And effectively, her character just kind of ruins, in my opinion, the best character redemption arc of the entire series.
I don't feel something for somebody that's crying because they don't want to die. That's selfish. You've caused so much death and pain to other people, and you've laughed in their faces as they've died in agony sometimes, and all of a sudden you grovel when it's you. That's selfish. That's a little petty itself. You're not being human right now because all of a sudden you've learned humanity. You're crying because just like everything else, it's self-serving. The whole time she kept saying, I don't want to die here. I don't want to die. Not like this. Not like well, shit. You had a chance to stop all this. Sure. And as Christians say, you had a chance to run out of there and even save yourself, you selfish bitch. But but she, it got to the point where he said her hubris and her, and her own ego is what is really what got her killed, to the point where it's downright stupidity in a way. Jamie went out like a bitch. Jamie, for the big climax that we have here, really, you just died. You just, this whole journey was just for you to take a couple of jabs in the side and die into some bricks. I thought she should have died by his hands. not going under some rubble. I thought he probably should have reached her. She's not moving. He's like, you're not going to give up. You're going to die. It's meant for us to die together. I'd rather it be by my hands instead of you just going out like this. Instead of just like, hey, let's just hold each other.
I know. That's
down to
exactly
some
what it
debris.
is.
Well, it's just under the circumstances of how the episode was set up. Like, had Danny not flipped that switch, or just not had any switch at all, and just laid waste to the whole thing, and Cersei's constant denial was like, no, it's fine, we're gonna be fine. Until that final moment, he's like, okay, we gotta go. and in that way, her breaking down, that's when it's like, okay, I see you for the first time in a long time as a human.
To me, it was anticlimactic. But again,
Yeah.
as you see, this is really conflicting, man, because a lot of people have so many different emotions. I hear you over there, Christian. You have something to that you want to add to this?
Well, yeah, I mean, they effectively gave him another Kingslayer moment, but with Euron, a character who no one even thinks is an actual character, right? He's a caricature, if anything.
Yeah.
But they give him that whole Kingslayer thing. I think they could have fixed that moment really easily if instead of going under the rubble, he wanted to to kill Cersei by his hand, because that's his weird way of compassion and mercy. Like, you still could have had that moment. I just feel like they completely butchered this entire character arc, man.
That moment was something straight out of a Schwarzenegger movie. Those two dudes.
Wow.
These two dudes
Wrestling.
just letting that fucking toxic masculinity just get the best of them.
Oh, yo, this was Lethal Weapon 1. This is like Riggs fighting that guy on the lawn, the helicopter's going over. Murtaugh's like, I got this, I take responsibility. These two guys are just fighting for no reason.
Yeah,
it made no sense within this show, dude.
I really thought, like, yeah, man, there was no reason other than we got to find a quick way to kill Jaime, and somebody needs to take Euron out real quick. So we're just getting to a quick scuffle with you guys. And plus, that was some dumb shit. How's the way to kill Jaime Lannister? He's still walking, man.
Yeah.
I hate to tell you,
Yeah, no,
I hate to tell you, but bricks kill Jaime Lannister.
Yeah, I thought all of it was bad. It was like, okay, here's two people that we know that are, big players in this whole grand scheme of things. And I'm like, what's this discounted Jack Sparrow doing right now facing off Jaime in the end? Right? Like, why? And for a second, they actually even convinced me that I'm like, no way Euron takes out Jaime like this. Because I was already getting heated. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess he survived, but this battle shouldn't even have mattered. I'm like, why give even Euron so many big victories looking at it now, retrospectively, when he ultimately just doesn't serve any big purpose in this story? It was just, again, just convenience for the sake of convenience, just to help Cersei, right? And I just didn't like it at all.
Speaking of Euron taking out that last dragon, did that easily the first time around. But then in this episode, we see just as easily Danny can dodge those arrows and just went down and demolished the fleet. Why didn't you do it the first time? Or am I missing something here?
Well, I know people didn't like why that last dragon died in the last episode, but it took them from surprise. That's why able to shoot it, and that's why they got it multiple times. She didn't see that coming.
Okay.
Like in this one, she was diving head first, just pure wild rage, with all of them aimed directly at her. And yeah, you could say, yeah, she could have gone around and all that, and people posted their YouTube videos and all. I get it. But in this one, she employed strategy, where in that last episode, she didn't.
Okay.
So
I see that.
that's how I interpret it as. It's like,
I see that. I can definitely see that. That's why I don't want to come in and be snarky about it.
Yeah, I know.
I just want to say I thought of that at first.
Sure, of course.
But upon hearing other opinions, but how do you feel?
Well, that's the thing. That's why I won't be snarky towards you. But that's all I thought when we saw that play out. I'm like, so why didn't she do this last week? Why didn't this happen last week?
I think it poses a larger question, which is like, apparently this was really easy, and the Red Keep is already separated from most of King's Landing. So I know the problem this time was that there were civilians inside, but that didn't stop Dany, right? But I'm just talking about the first time, like when she was there. Like, she could very easily have just taken out the Red Keep in like 10 minutes. The whole season 7, season 8 ain't necessary. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just, it seemed like she got more shit done with one dragon than she did with 3 dragons. And I don't understand that, man. That's crazy to me.
Like that was a question of mine when we talked about it last week, when she was right there in front of the castle. If her whole plan was to just burn everything down, her mind was set on that. Why didn't she do it right there on the spot? Or why didn't they take out that dragon when they had it? There's a lot of strategy that doesn't make sense to me going on. But then again, that's why I'm saying if people have reasons for it, I can understand that too. Which, like I said, you did.
Yeah, for that one. I mean, for destroying the Red Keep. I mean, yeah, she probably could have done it. She took out half that castle. I was like, and it was very filmed in a really cool way. I
love the
love
shot.
that moment. I love the shot.
Yeah.
But no, I mean I mean, she could have just used the dragon, and that would have been it. End of story. Cersei's dead.
Yeah, Grey Worm. He needs to go to.
Oh yeah,
I really, because now he's being driven by pure emotion.
revenge.
Revenge. Yeah, that he did not care about the safety of those people at all. Again, a character that I really liked, and I hate this guy now. And I don't know if he'll die, not in the last episode. I'm sure, with the way Game of Thrones is, he could just ride off into the sunset just like everything else, but I really hope he dies.
If the Mountain killed Missandei, the setup was there. I'm like, okay, I think the Mountain's going to face off Grey Worm. He's going to lose. And then somehow now we get the true Clegane Bowl, right? Not what we got tonight. But I thought that's how that whole scene was going to play out. Because you're right. There's a scene where, listen, the Lannisters, they threw their swords down.
Yeah.
So what was his point and his motivation to just now be bloodthirsty?
Anger.
Yeah.
Revenge, like Chris said.
Yeah, and my whole thing is like how people like interpret like him dying in the last episode or something like that. That's what they want. For me, his whole thing is about he found a purpose in Daenerys, and then he found another purpose in Missandei.
Yeah, again, interpretation has a lot to do with it, but that wasn't the same character that we've been watching. And you can say that he snapped because Missandei's gone, but it seemed like he was someone who understood the horrors and brutalities that humans can do to other humans, right? He's an Unsullied. We know how horrifically tragic their origin stories are.
Yeah.
So it's just like for him to just in the moment, like I understand he has personal loss, but he unless you're just gonna he's schizophrenic, man, he bipolar, he lost that shit. Now he's just killing people because that wasn't it. Like there was a calm before the storm. It was when Dany continued to blow shit up is when he decided I guess we're fighting, man.
What would you think about maybe having finally found some purpose and then also finally having found love? He's something that has been, it was something that held him back. It was something that actually made him more empathetic towards people. And now all that is taken away from him, and he more than ever, he feels alone. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And this is what drives him. Something that's been taken, the thing that made him human has been taken from him. And so therefore he just gives into the rage, especially when he's given his allegiance to this queen who he follows. And now he sees that she doesn't give a shit. So I'm not going to care either. I'm just going to go. Yeah. Why should I? She's giving into pure emotion. Why should I not give into pure emotion right now?
Sure, but I mean, everyone, plenty of people have lost plenty of stuff. You know what I'm saying? This whole world is about people being fucked over and losing things. And he loses one thing and he becomes Chuck Bronson in Death Wish, man. He's just, I'm killing every motherfucker. And it's just weird because, again, if it Lannister soldiers, that's fine. But at some point, they're just straight up slaughtering civilians, man. And that just doesn't ring true to who that character was. I'll even make a case for Dany. You want to say Dany's been homicidal for a couple of years? Sure, that's fine. I don't necessarily agree, but at least they tried. They didn't try with Grey Worm until last episode?
The army under Jon Snow,
The North.
the North. I don't think that all of them would have just turned into bloodthirsty killers all of a sudden like this, to where all of them, are killing innocent people, raping women. Just like everybody just lost their minds all of a sudden.
I'll say this to kind of push on that. I mean, look, the Boltons were part of the North, and they were bloodthirsty. They flayed their people alive. We know the Starks are honorable. We know that some of the bannermen certainly are not. Even more recent ones, like the Glovers. They're like, we're not going to come help you at the Battle of Winterfell. So I don't think all these houses kind of have the same morality as Jon Snow and his own army at Winterfell. There's all different types of families around that place.
And the House of Bolton definitely was brutal.
Yeah, they were brutal. They flayed their enemies alive.
Their flags were
flayed men.
Flayed men.
Yeah.
So that I can kind of see, and this is words. This is slaughter. This is all for the taking. I never had anything as a soldier. Now I can have it. So I can kind of buy that. But I thought it was well represented in just Jon Snow's repulsion, because even as a soldier, he's never really seen this himself. Everyone he served around, except when he was stabbed to death at one time, they all served honorably around him. And this was the first time that he's seen that. And so I kind of bought into that, why the North was doing that.
I can see that. I don't want to look like I'm complaining about too many things here. There are still some things that I didn't see, that I didn't understand. But, just to kind of turn around here and talk about some of the things that they did well here. I'm talking about Jamie and how maybe I don't like his arc. Very good moment between him and Tyrion, man.
Yeah.
I thought that he's been conflicted with his family this whole time, and and this is the one where I think that he's finally just, he's been guarded for so long, and to finally see him break down, and at this moment where he's like, this is the last chance I'm probably gonna have to show you my gratitude, protecting me. I've not been a great person. You've been worse, but I thought that was a really touching scene.
Yeah, I think that for a lot of people will say that was the true goodbye to Jamie. For people who may have not liked his end with Cersei, between the two brothers, Tyrion, Jamie was the only one that ever showed him any kindness, that truly loved him. So I thought that was probably one of the standout moments of the entire episode in terms of character building.
Yeah.
No, I told you I'm at the point now where you can fuck up on story as long as you give me character moments that make sense and that are really effective. And this one was really effective. I think it was the best standout moment character wise easily of the whole episode. And this is what I want you to think about. If this scene isn't in this episode, what is the truly great character moment?
Arya and the Hound. I mean, that was a great. I thought that was a great arc with some great completion that they had. Because I thought, I didn't think this, but a lot of people were predicting, and I thought this would be. To me, it'll be terrible if they do this. Yeah. Why would they have Arya do another big kill in this series?
Sure.
That would not make sense to me. You're talking about making people mad. Think how many people be pissed about that. People even ask for it. People, I was just around. They did it for real. I like that this whole time where she's been courageous, she's been brave, she's been really hard, and these two have been at it with each other. I thought that was cool and very believable that they finally showed some love for each other. Yeah. True love. Yeah. To the point where he's like, listen, I've been hard on you to make you who you are, but I want you to survive. I don't want you to turn into me. He wouldn't do that if he didn't love her. Yeah. And she called him by his real name at that point.
That was sweet. Yeah. No, 100%. And I'm sorry, I know other people were going to jump in, but that was kind of the highlight of that one moment specifically. I have issues with both Arya and the Hound though. So whenever we need to get to that actual separately, I would love to talk about it. But just in terms of when she says what's his name? Sandar, right? Sandar Clegane?
Yeah.
Man, it kind of got me for half a second. I'm like, okay, maybe this isn't terrible. Maybe this is okay.
I don't think, she was doing her best to be, as brave as she could, but this is one where she had self-doubt. And this is the moment where self-doubt led to self-preservation, where people say it's this will to survive. I think it was also just this panic, and it shows just the horror that Daenerys was creating around her. She was like, man, I am horrified just by seeing what someone, who's truly horrendous is capable of, and having to see all these other people and seeing all these other people die has now made me afraid. I thought it was a good, vulnerable moment for her.
Listen, this was finally. Listen, she's a girl who went through so much shit. It's okay to be vulnerable. Yeah. And when she said Sander, I'm just like, wow, that was another surrogate father, and I love that moment. And maybe because I'm currently playing God of War right now, where he just I had to make you tough because I love you. And I'm like, oh my God, it's true. I loved it too. So yeah, I loved how it played out, but he just looked at her with a stern look. I don't care who you are, and I don't care how badass you are. You're a girl, please. This is a scary moment. Let me take care of this by myself. Don't die in vain just because you want to show off this badass persona.
Well, what I thought was cool was he said, listen, revenge has made me the monster that I am. You don't want to do this. And she thought about it for a second, and then you say, all right, let me put it this way. You're going to die. And she's like, you know what? Good point.
Common sense. Girl knows.
Well, I mean, I'm dissatisfied for different reasons. You can call it a nitpick or whatever, but Arya before the Battle of Winterfell is just I've seen the many faces of death, and I look forward to meeting this one, right? She's just this cold psychopath, sociopath who's beyond feeling anything, and then in this episode she's kind of reverting back to that. And that's again, it would be fine if they had done some legwork on it, but it's this was almost the Saving Private Ryan moment, right? You just hear the high-pitched thing and everyone's moving in slow motion and shit like that, and that's when she regains her humanity. I just didn't love the her running through Winterfell, or not Winterfell, King's Landing part, because it just seemed okay, so now you're back to being a person.
This girl, she had so many convenient moments where she got where I mean, it was almost it was too convenient for her to live. This is where I saw it, where it's like, hey, no, I don't see you surviving because you're you're that skillful or even you're that lucky. I saw somebody wrote this for you to survive. Yeah. There was so many things that happened in this. You had a tower fall on you, and the tower fell on you in just the right way where the window came down, and you looked up and you could walk out, even to the point where she ordered an Uber horse after it was all done.
That part was obnoxious.
Horse was like,
hey,
did you call an Uber? I was like, come on, man. Everything was very convenient for her. Everybody was dying behind her. Oh, fire just barely missed you. Explosion just barely missed you. Oh my God, you just moved. Even this pebble just was, it just happened to be just out of reach. I was like, man, the writing there is showing. And it doesn't feel natural.
You said it. How conveniently in this corner, this tight corner, she evaded that fire, and I'm like,
I'm gonna tell you something. We saw a scene where a dude ran down the alley and the fire ran his ass down. Fire said, "Hey, come here. Where you going?"
Grabbed him and stuck him
She
back.
turned the corner, and that fire was just like, "Oh, you a main character." Hey, this is some Independence Day Indiana Jones shit going on with her.
Oh my God, you're right. It's like the dog jumping out of the way.
The dog, the dog jumping out. Oh, I'm like, like when the dog jumped into the corner and they shut the door behind them. Yeah, this is that's what was going on here. I think that there are things that are that at the same time, maybe the execution was not done convincingly or even maybe that good, but the cinematography was always great. Arya running through the city, amazing. If nothing else, you can take it from the standpoint of, man, you know what, you did successfully, maybe even to a fault to where I noticed what's going on here, but you did put me in the middle of it. And I tell you, man, they said, and I will give them credit on this, they said, we're going to kill children, and they did. To the point where even a girl, when she went down to her mom, she's like, "No, it's in the script. I gotta die."
Well, that was Arya's fault when she did those mothers. Like, "You'll be safe. Come with me." Oh, you dead. You should have stayed exactly where you should have stayed.
oh yeah, I love that girl. He's like, no, I mean, she's like, "Look, I'm gonna burn, but I'm gonna be with my mama."
Yeah, Mother's Day. It's Mother's Day episode.
It's a Mother's Day episode. Hey, we're gonna burn with mama. But I think the cinematography was great.
Yes,
and that's why I have to say, with the Hound and the Mountain, everybody's been looking forward to this fight. There were so many times that they did these incredible shots where that dragon was in the background and let you know, I ain't done, motherfucker. No, I'm still doing this. Just in the background with these amazing shots where there's so much going on. Yeah. All these shots were so well composed in this. The action was clear. May not always make sense, but it was clear. And that fight scene right there, where they're on this tower, and you see like the dusk in the back, and the destruction going, and the dragon's just like a minor character in the background, just flying around. Amazing. Logistically, even for a dude fighting a zombie, I don't think this is where they start playing with bending the rules of the character. At least for me. And again, I wouldn't have listened to explanations. We saw the Hound. We saw the Mountain. At one time, take a dude's skull and crush that shit like a melon and slap his teeth across the court. Just in this shot right here, we saw him push a guy so hard that the back of his head caved in.
Kyber. He went out.
Now, I know, much respect to the Hound, I know that he's a strong man, but he's still a man.
Right. Yeah.
So 2 things. I'm willing to listen to explanations for this. And this is probably one that can be explained. Why did he all of a sudden gain consciousness back enough to like disobey the orders? I mean, he's a zombie, so he disobeyed the orders of Cersei and
Kyber,
and went over there and attacked. The other thing is, I don't care how strong the Hound is. It seems to me that the moment he's got that head, that's it. If he punches you, your head is caved in. Why did physics change on the Hound all of a sudden? He's a strong guy, but he's still immortal.
Fan service, right? I mean, Clegane Bowl has been something that was hyped up. Did it deliver? I don't think it did. But, there's a point I was laughing at it because I'm like, is the Zombie Mountain just Nemesis from Resident Evil? Like, he looked like it. He looked like it. I mean, I heard him say stars at one point, and I'm like, okay, this is what's going on, because just like any zombies, you would think, okay, kill them in the brain, and the Hound did that, and I thought that's how he was going to go out. No, it's kept on going.
The Hound is inherently not someone who's like been driven by revenge necessarily, right? Like certainly his brother informs the character when we first meet the Hound, right? He's a mean dude. He's cantankerous. He doesn't like to have any emotions with people. He fears fire. But that's not who the Hound ended up becoming. Even by the end of season 2, he had kind of got past that. He was struggling with I guess humanity, if you will, but he wasn't the brute that his brother was. And so like I thought we definitely needed a confrontation, but I also didn't think that like his character arc was not like, oh, from day one, like when we thought about the Jaime thing, I give you a lot of reasons, and I think I still make a lot of sense where it's like, oh man, he's the only honorable thing he ever did was the king slaying, right?
Yeah.
Again, the only honorable thing he can do is he'll be the queen slayer, but he'll go down in history as a coward. That's one thing you're like, okay, from episode 1, they set that shit up.
Yeah.
I never felt like the Hound was so hell-bent on revenge that his entire character was like, oh, I gotta do this. You know what I'm saying? So that's my only beef with it. I did love the scene from a like cinematography standpoint. There's that scene where I think he's been stabbed and they do the silhouette of the mountain's head in the sun, and just like the rays are peeking out from behind his behind his head, and he pulls a sword out. Fucking gorgeous, man. And again, the idea that they fall into fire, again, pretty. Like actually pretty. That whole relationship was forged in fire. That's awesome. I felt like it felt perfunctory. It didn't feel like this real great grand build up to this moment that we'd all been waiting for.
I've been loving Tyrion this whole time. He's been struggling so hard to make just to get everyone to do the right thing, and you can see that with him too. What do you think about him being a snitch bitch? If this guy is his best friend, Varys, and we all know that Varys. Now, I think the honorable thing with Varys is that Varys, that even when he told his, the girl in that scene at the beginning,
His spy,
spy, he said, "Listen, we all know the risk." I don't think at one point, what I love about this character, he's like, "No, listen, I'm truly about the realm. If I die, I'm dying for the realm.
Yep.
I hope it's just not in vain." And he was willing to go out. If him and Tyrion are so tight, why didn't Tyrion try to just say, "Listen, you know what she's going to do if she finds out. There's got to be another way for you to do this. I don't want to be the one to like have to rat you out."
And I don't mind that Tyrion, did snitch on Varys, because you're right. Varys knew from the get-go, who he was as a character, and that I think Tyrion can respect that enough to be like, okay, I know who you are, and I think I know what you're gonna do, and that's why I got to stop you right here.
Yeah.
I think this character has come a long way, and he's one of my favorite characters here. I think he's been probably as we said, we've seen him be one of the strongest characters. He's been also one of the most emotional characters here. He's been a character that's kind of captured everything. With that said, is there so much weight on this character do you think that this is one of the characters that in the final episode they're just gonna kill him off?
My whole thing with Tyrion, and this is my prediction, that it would always end with Tyrion and Jon in some way. Either with Jon on the throne and Tyrion by his side, because they've always been the constants to me, kind of the entire Game of Thrones arc. And also Daenerys. But I think there'll be a situation where Daenerys clearly has lost it, and maybe that'll be the thing that will set Jon off, where she's going to decide to execute Tyrion based on him releasing Jaime, all this stuff. I think that's going to be the thing. And
she gave him a warning.
She did give him a warning. It's like, you betray me, I'll burn you alive. The same threat to Varys, same threat to him. Yep. And so I think that's what it's going to lead to.
I'll tell you, one of my favorite shots also is the execution of Varys. Because I knew, I said, and I'm kind of predicting this in the best way. I'm not, not it's bad because it's predictable. I was like, you have to utilize this space, that darkness, and we know that she burns people alive when she's crossed Daenerys. I said, this is going to be a great shot if the dragon just, comes out of the shroud of darkness.
Right above her, too.
Right above her. I said, that was an amazing shot. I'm telling you, man, it's probably one of my, from a technical aspect, it's one of my favorite episodes. Sure. How do you feel about there being one more episode? It just seems like there's so much to cover. Now we got one more episode, and I think we all can kind of know where it's going. I mean, look, this is George R.R. Martin. It might not, for all I know, Daenerys might be absolutely right about everything she was saying. And she's like, see, told you. We might see, flash forward years later, kids are running around in the grass, and whatnot. But I think I think people really feel like, okay, I don't think HBO is going to show this many families and innocent people and children dying without some sort of repercussions for her. I think a lot of people feel like the only option is for her to die.
Oh, yeah.
What is your, and this is where I'm going to step back. I think the option is for her to die right here. And that might be just be wishful thinking on my part. But what is going to happen next regarding that and everything else? And what are your predictions on things going? And anything else you want to add? I'm kind of going to back off now.
My whole thing is, I think she's going to have to, there has to be consequences for what she's done at this point, because she has become what she always said, I'm going to fight against tyrants. She is a tyrant now.
Yes.
And it'll be from the person that she loves. I think Jon will be the one to kill her. He'll wake up out of it and just like, okay, this has to end. This whole idea of this bloodline, our bloodline, the Targaryens, it has to end with this. And I don't know if he'll die too or he'll be on the Iron Throne, but I think one of the big moments of the next episode is him killing her.
There's moments in this episode where you just see Jon and pause, right? Just kind of like in Battle of the Bastards, of like the horror and disgust of what's happening around him. And I think he knows, just like us, that he has to be the one to take Dany down. He has to, live with that consequence, but again, for the greater of the realm. But from there, what happens? Do we, flash forward 20 years where I told you Sam is going to tell little Sam and the other Gilly's child, and this was a song of ice and fire, folks, right? Like, but there's still so much to tell, and I think that's ultimately what's going to hurt the show's legacy.
Right. I mean, Jon seems to be the only emotional connection that would have any weight, although I would pose just as a weird Lannister family thing that gets passed down, like if Tyrion somehow has to kill her because he chose Varys and he was wrong. He's emotionally affected, but also just think about that like he would be the Queen Slayer. You know what I mean? Like it would still be pretty emotionally effective.
I mean, some of the other things that I would want to know at the very least is what happens with Bran at this point. Like he had such an arc throughout this entire series, becoming the three-eyed raven, this fountain of knowledge, literal fountain of knowledge, knowing the past and the present always. Like I want to know what's going to happen with him. Is he going to kind of go off into just be the three-eyed raven? There has to be something with him that has to be satisfying.
Him and that dragon will go off together.
Maybe, but
you need a ride?
But he's magic too.
Yeah,
that's another thing. It's like if there's going to be truly an end of magic in Westeros, and he needs to go. I would think.
There is something that has to be concluded with him.
Yeah.
And I just hope it feels natural because, we haven't seen him, this episode. And it's a good point where I don't think people still really even realize what's going on with him.
No, I don't. People, even the characters are just confused when they see him.
Well, you know what's so crazy though? Is it just really unfortunate for me, I've loved this show, that after that episode 3, I really feel like Dan and Dave are just not going to answer a lot of these burning questions.
I mean, I think the truth is we're not going to get a satisfying conclusion for a lot of the characters. I think by design, there are shows when you have 80 characters that you can't possibly get to all of them. I've always said, this is a weird comparison, but I've always compared Game of Thrones to The Wire. Obviously not about drugs in inner city Baltimore, but about the idea of how expansive the cast was. Each season, you learned more characters, like 5 to 6 new principals, while keeping the last season's principles as well. And so, like, that's the blueprint for how to wrap your stories up and give everyone a moment. Yeah. I think that we are way too far in the game to get any kind of satisfying moment for any of the people who are out in the wind. I think, Tormund leaving at the end of the Battle of Winterfell, that was it. You know what I'm saying? We're not going to get another Tormund moment. We're not going to get another Yara moment. We're not going to get another Bronn moment. I could be wrong. I would love to be wrong, but there's no way in 80 minutes to 2 hours we're going to be able to touch on everything while we still have the story to tell.
No, I think I will say we're going to get like you kind of were saying, DJ Miles, and like an epilogue. I think we're going to get that where years later we're going to see these characters and it might be like a montage type thing, but we are going to see where they are.
Yeah, it's weird. I do want to say, although this isn't the show that I once fell in love with, I'm still enjoying it for the spectacle that they gave us. The show was just it did so many right things in the beginning, and now just knowing where it's going to end. Yeah, you're right. 90 minutes. I'm like, but of course we spent, in the last episode 20 minutes at a frat party.
I like that frat party.
But there's no other
did
things
too.
happening. But that's those are my burning questions where I'm like, oh my God, there is so much story to tell, and how are they going to wrap up all these other loose ends? And I don't think they are.
Again, if you've enjoyed this Game of Thrones discussion, check out the others that we have on our site, doubletoasted.com. Over there, they're uncut, unedited, and we also have them uncensored. Or you can watch a shorter version on YouTube. Please, on our site, we do live streams all the time. Go over there and support if you can. We also have a store, dtmerch.com. Buy some stuff and stay toasty.